Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Evolve with Emily show. I am your host, Emily Hayden, and you are listening to another solo episode. In this solo episode, I am going to share with you guys some things I really wanted to share with you, but it's going to be centered around a solo vacation that I just did. I want to share with you today some reasons why I think everybody should solo travel, solo vacation, at least once in their life. Before we get into today's episode, if you guys are watching on YouTube, what's up? Feel free to shoot the video a thumbs up if you enjoy today's content. And if you would like to see more, don't forget to subscribe. If you guys are listening on an audio platform, make sure you are following and subscribing there. It's really easy to listen to a podcast and never actually be subscribed to it. But if you want to see when I upload, that's the way to make sure that you don't miss an upload. And if you guys want to take the extra step of support, then you can also rate and review the show on whatever platform it is that you are listening to. Any form of support, whether it's sharing or subscribing or purchasing something from one of the partners on the show, Cured Nutrition, or one of my support links, everything is greatly appreciated. So thank you guys for helping me to be able to continue to create content for you guys. So let's dive in. What made me book a solo vacation? I honestly got to this point where I realized that at the end of a really hard work day, all I wanted to do was grab my phone and I wanted to look at these reels of the most beautiful places that I would see on Instagram, right? Of sunsets and oceans and hilltops and mountains and flowers and gardens and beautiful nature underneath the ocean and all of the ocean life. I just spent so much time saving these reels and liking these reels. And when it says like tag someone you take here, I would literally tag myself. I would tag myself because I would love to go there, you know? And it was kind of a joke, but clearly it wasn't a joke because I literally took myself to an island. So nature is something that fills my heart and it fills my soul in a way where I can be sitting on the couch. And when I see these beautiful views, it makes my heart skip a beat, guys. Like, it's not normal. And I know that maybe other people relate with me, but not everybody feels that way. And I think that we really have to listen to what lights our soul and our heart on fire. And we have to go and experience those things. And we cannot let it be so long since having experienced something that lights our soul and our heart on fire. So as I'm speaking, even ask yourself this: what are the things that light my heart and soul on fire? And now the second and follow-up question is, when was the last time that I experienced one of these things? Because you may get into a hard spot in life and find that you are overwhelmed and burnt out. You're feeling feelings of depression or of just confusion or all these things that just don't feel good, right? You're in a really difficult spot mentally. And nothing may be wrong with your life, but you may have just not filled up your heart, your soul, and your spirit in the way that it needs to be filled up in quite a while. And if you find that that's you, you have to find a way to allow yourself to experience it. Even just those moments of scrolling and saving reels and commenting and liking those reels, those moments brought happiness to me, right? But I got to a certain point where it just wasn't doing it anymore. Now, granted, I have not been on a proper vacation in more than 5 years, I think. And I just got to this point where, in a way, I feel like I was waiting to go on vacation. I feel like I was like, okay, when I'm in a really committed relationship, like I cannot wait to go and experience these things, right? And I think that was something that was definitely holding me back, is being single, not being in a relationship. And I know that sounds stupid to say out loud, but I think a lot of people can kind of relate to it. And I keep thinking like, oh, it'll happen soon, right? Like this year, it'll definitely happen. And when that happens, I can't wait to go on vacation with them, kind of thing. And I kind of just had the realization, I had the self-awareness that even though I would never say, oh, I'm waiting on somebody to go on vacation, I think that was subconsciously what I was doing. And I didn't mean to do it. I think I kind of just like kept putting off the vacation. And here's the other thing. I also have a lot of really great friends all across the world and the country who all love to travel, who do a lot of what I do. So I have no doubt that I could call up multiple people and be like, hey, let's go to an island. Let's go on vacation. Let's go do this, right? And that they would be down. But for whatever reason, I was just feeling really called and led to go by myself. I didn't want to go with somebody and have to accommodate their plans. And I know that sounds like a little selfish, but I think I needed this trip. I think I really needed this, and this is what I've been referring to it as. It was an entire week of self-love. It was literally a week of self-love, because it was a week where I got to be selfish. And I don't really often, do that a lot in my daily life, in the sense that a lot of what I do is focused around my business, the people that I work with, my audience, my coaching, clients, my family. It's a lot of, what am I doing for other people, and how can I accommodate? How can I help? How can I serve the best? And granted, I do a lot of things for myself as well. Don't take this as like I just serve all the time. I do things for myself, but I definitely have never ever spent this much time just being like, Emily, what do you want? What do you need? And let me give that to you, right? I have moments of like self-care and being focused on self at home, but I really just have never had this many days and this many decisions and activities where it really was around me. It was selfish, and I really enjoyed it, guys. And here's the thing. Life is not meant to be lived that way. It is so much more rewarding to give. It is so rewarding to be of service. And guys, I would get so bored so quickly if I lived my life for me. Like, that is not a life to live. However, taking a moment in time, a week in the span of your life is a blimp in time, and taking that moment in time to really just love on yourself and to give yourself what you need and what you want. And if you feel like taking a nap. And if you feel like going on an excursion, booking a bougie excursion for yourself, like, that's a really awesome place to be. And guys, I regret absolutely nothing. That was the best trip of my life. 10 of 10, would recommend taking yourself on a solo vacation. If you guys are watching the YouTube video, I have not stopped smiling the entire time, because genuinely, I just am thinking about it, and it was the most amazing week. I genuinely think that was probably one of the best weeks of my life. And I just really recommend that everybody takes time for themselves. And maybe you can't go on like a whole solo vacation. I understand that. I've literally never done that in my life. But if life gives you the opportunity, if you create that opportunity for yourself to go on a solo trip, to go on a solo little weekend thing, or whatever it is, I really highly recommend that you do it. And I will say, being that it was going to be a whole week, I kind of prepped my mind ahead of time. I was like, hey, if you end up feeling a moment of loneliness, that's probably normal, and that's probably okay. So I really already came to terms with that ahead of time, just in case I experienced it. That way I wouldn't take it so heavy. Yet, like, literally as soon as I got there, I got to the ocean and I just started laughing like a crazy person, because I was so happy and my heart was so filled up. And that week really showed me that I am so whole on my own. I'm so whole. I'm so happy. I'm so peaceful. I have such a thrill and a zest and an excitement for life. And it felt really good to just know that when I'm alone and I'm by myself, that is what I feel. And I never want to lose that. And I really I have so much more appreciation for the fact that that's who I am by myself. And that appreciation and that value for that inner peace, that love, that positive vibrancy that comes out of me, like, that is something to be valued. It is something to be treasured. It is something to be protected. And I will never, ever, ever, ever let someone come and take that ever again. And I will never allow negativity to be a part of my life ever again. I've experienced some things that really just started to crush me and started to really, really bring me down. And I will never self-sacrifice again. And I think if we're all honest, we've probably all been in some sort of relationship or business deal or situation where we have been self-sacrificing to a bad or a negative extent. Now, in all relationships, there is sacrifice, there is compromise, that is a natural part of relationship and business and doing partnership with other people, no matter in what kind of partnership it is. But when it starts to be detrimental to self, when it starts to destroy yourself, that is just so not acceptable. It is so not okay. It is toxic. And that is not something that you should ever, ever tolerate. And I will never, ever tolerate that again. So this trip was just really so good for me in so many ways, guys. It was such a trip of self-love, of healing, of wholeness, of connection to myself, to God. I didn't have to try to connect to God. I honestly, guys, I was in a really, really hard spot before I left for this trip, more than I probably talked about. And I really didn't even open up to many people or friends. I finally kind of opened up to some friends at the First Form event, which was a really difficult event for me, if I'm being totally honest. It was a lot of fun in some ways, and the end of it was a lot of fun, but I came into it in such a hard spot that imagine, guys, okay, just imagine you guys have all had like just a more of like a season where it's like weeks and weeks, right? Of like a really hard time, like a really, really hard time. And then you get around like a good friend and they're like, hey, how are you? And you're like, don't ask me that right now. Right now, imagine going to an event where you get to meet your audience who are just like incredible people. And they come up to you and you have one person and another person and another person say, how are you? And it's like not the appropriate time to be like, yo guys, I'm actually really not okay. Right. And you just kind of have to be like, I'm happy to be here at this event. Right. But like after so many people, like back to back to back to back, like asking me that, I would have to like take breaks and go in the restroom and honestly let out a cry. I would like break down in the bathroom because I was just really not okay, and it's hard to admit that. I don't like feeling that way. I don't, listen, I would never tell anyone else that is weakness. But even as I talk about it, I feel it, like it feels vulnerable, I guess is the right word. It feels vulnerable to even say that, but that's honestly the spot that I was in. And so to go from that into this solo vacation where, I didn't know if I was going to get there and cry in the hotel room by myself the entire time. Right. But I think what I really realized is that my soul was just starving, guys. It was starving for the things that light it on fire, the ocean, the nature, the hikes, the sunsets, the time by myself, the time to connect to God. And that's one thing I wanted to mention is in this really difficult spot, guys, I feel like I was striving to connect to God. Like I was trying so hard and I was like, I know that it's all that I need. Like I know that all I need is to be able to connect to God, and I'm not connecting to him in the way that I normally do. And that was a large part of me booking that solo trip. And when I got on the trip, I didn't even have to try to connect to God. God was all around me. Like I felt him, like I could sense like just this presence, this beautiful, loving presence everywhere that I looked. And granted, like I was in paradise, yes, but that's where I experience God the most, is in nature. Like that is experiencing and communing with and hanging out with God to me. And, I was in the ocean and I was swimming in the ocean, and I even was like conversating with God while I was snorkeling. I was like, God, like, what were you thinking when you created all of these fish that are so beautiful and so just different and unique, and they all have different like purposes and different ways of being? And I was just mesmerized by the beauty and just by the magnificence of the ocean and the underlife, like and the underwater life that's there. There's a whole world down there, guys. There's like a whole different world down there. And it was just, it blew my mind in such beautiful, beautiful ways. So I guess I wanted to mention all of this because one, I really highly recommend that you guys take a solo travel trip. I think it's really healing and really beneficial, and it can be really eye-opening to you. And two, recognize in your life where you feel like you are striving. I don't think that we're meant to strive in life. I think when we're striving, it's almost like we're trying to force something that's not happening. And in relation to my spiritual walk, my walk with God, I feel like I was striving in that way. And I almost feel like, and this is my perception, this is my current way that I understand, it may not be right, but the way that I think about it is I'm like, was God purposely kind of like taking a step back a little bit in order to draw me closer into booking a trip for myself so that I could experience him in such profound and beautiful ways that I would not have experienced him had I still felt like I was connecting at least good enough or well enough, like at home in my regular prayer and quiet time, right? So I don't know, like that's what I think, and maybe I'm wrong, but I kind of just feel like maybe he took that step back in order to call me into this deeper and more beautiful moment. And it wasn't something for me to strive or to push or to try harder in. It was for me to say, okay, so we're not connecting in these places that we normally connect. God, where are you at? God, where are you calling me? Where are you leading me? And where are you directing me? and then to just trust like the good things in my heart, that guiding force in my heart, which you could understand as your intuition, you could understand as God, or just as direction, your true north, right? It was just so screaming at me, like banging on the window, screaming at me, being like, go take the trip, and I think there's a lot of things that come with that. I will in a heartbeat spend X amount of money on family in need and people that I love in need and helping out and things like that, things I'll never talk about. But yet when it comes to spending that exact same amount on myself for something like a vacation, I felt a lot of guilt towards it. If I'm being totally honest, it was really difficult for me to jump over that fence, so to speak, of the self-guilt of like, how could I take this vacation when I still need to solve all the world's problems, and not that I'm in the position to do that by any means, not even close, but like, I think that's like the subconscious thing that was there of, how can I take a trip when I need to be helping other people? And now it's like, and I could even get emotional just thinking about that, because what a warped way of thinking. Because me spending that money and taking that trip, truly, I have come back, guys, so refreshed, feeling so good, feeling like I have myself back, I have my fire back, and it's everything that I needed to be able to help on a level that I could never help on had I not gone and taken that trip, had I not gone and done something that really, truly was selfish, that really, truly was just for me. And here's the thing, I would not be able to take any like dots and connect the dots from like, okay, this is exactly how this trip impacted my business, my life, my relationships, right? Like there's no direct correlation like in business, right? Like I'm gonna 10x your money by this day. It's not how that works, right? But there's a clear correlation. There's a clear connection between taking the time to fill up your heart and your soul, to relax, to do whatever it is that you personally need to do for yourself, to disconnect in order to connect to yourself, to your higher power, to the things that light your heart on fire. And there's a connection to that, and you coming back with this drive, this motivation, this fire, this appreciation, this gratitude for your life, for your business, for the people that you're helping, to be of service to others, to guide other people along their own journey in this. There is a direct correlation and connection between that. So I wanted to mention that because, I share that too, guys. I share it all the time that like, hey, you got to take care of yourself in order to be able to help other people. And for me, that's always been little things like a face mask or, taking some time for myself. And this was just like such the next level step of that for myself. And I'm so thankful. I'm so thankful that I was in a position to be able to do that. So I would encourage you guys to find out, what step are you on? What is some action that you can take to fill yourself up, because it really is just probably everything that you need and more, guys. It was for me. So I hope that you can kind of, take something out of this and apply it to your life in order to be that best friend to yourself, in order to show yourself that you don't need anyone else. And here's the thing. I hesitate to say that because I do believe that we need each other. But what I mean by that is you don't need anyone to be whole. And you don't need anyone to wait to live your life. Like, stop waiting to live your life. No one is coming to save you. No one is coming to do all these things for you or to make things happen or to take you on your dream trip. Like, take yourself on your dream trip, And if someone happens to come along and, they're your best friend and partner and they want to do that with you, awesome. Enjoy every moment of it. You're one of those lucky people, right? And I do believe that it'll happen for everyone eventually, but don't wait. Don't let another year go by. And I think that was a thought that was really tormenting me as I was sitting on the couch, and guys, I've been doing this for probably a few years now, where I've been just like, scrolling, looking at these beautiful places or researching these beautiful places. And so for me, I was tormented by the thought of, am I going to let an entire another year go by still looking at these things through a screen? Or am I going to go out there and experience this? I am well too aware of how short life is, right? I've had a lot of friends that never made it to 35, right? And I'm sitting there thinking, I'm like, what if that's me? What if I'm the person that doesn't make it to my next birthday? And then all I did was sit on the couch and look at these things. look, I don't care what happens. I got to go out there and I got to experience this. I got to experience this before I die. Right. And that was just a big motivator for me taking that trip. And there's so much I could get into on that. Maybe I'll chat about it sometime with a podcast guest interview, and we can both talk about it or something. But I think the last thing I want to add, in addition to the solo trip talk, is safety while traveling solo, being a female. There's a few things that I would say, just a few things that are at the top of my mind. Number one, don't tell anyone that you're traveling solo, especially when you get there. I made that mistake once or twice. It kind of just like came out before I realized and was aware of the fact. I was like, you know, there's really great people in this world, and there's also really not great people in this world. And, you know, we've all seen the movie Taken, and that's actually like quite a reality. It's not, it is a movie, but like, it's quite a reality, right? They smile, they act really friendly. They act like they want to help, you know, show you the city and whatever. And then something really horrible ends up happening. Right. So, it's not to be paranoid, but it is to be smart, be aware, and to never make yourself an easy target, right? So always saying, oh yeah, my family's back, and, you know, I'm actually meeting my cousin, or I'm meeting my best friend, or whatever. You know, if you're in a taxi or something, like in conversation, you're always on your way to meet with somebody and they're expecting you in a few minutes. So don't mention that you're traveling alone. The next thing for me, guys, is always be armed. Always be armed with something. For me, if I'm armed, I'm not an easy target. I'm not. And I'm not an easy target anyways. Like, good luck, guys. But like, being armed, I know that I'm not making myself an easy target. And I know that if I'm in a situation, I have such a better chance of being able to get out of that situation. Now, if you're not able to travel with anything, get creative. Right? I went to an island and there weren't many options there, but I did find myself at an Office Max, and I went in there and I was like, hey, I am looking for some fishing utensils and fishing equipment. Do you happen to have a pocket knife here? And they were like, I don't think we have a pocket knife, but we may have like some scissors. I was like, yep, that'll probably do. So they bring me to the right aisle, and they had a box cutter. So I got a box cutter. And I actually texted one of my friends who was in the police force for a very long time in SWAT. And he was like, a box cutter will definitely work, and happened to send me a photo of someone who had a box cutter used on them. And it was very clear that a box cutter would be very efficient had I needed to protect myself in an emergency situation. It's very, very clear. So I carried that with me everywhere that I went, and I didn't really ever need it, except for one night when I felt like I was so glad that I had that with me. And that, which leads me into my next point, right? So that point was just be armed if you can, guys. Carry anything with you that's really going to detour people from anything with you. And, you know, just give you that extra level of confidence of knowing like, okay, I'll get myself out of here, but if I don't, I at least have this. The next thing I wanted to mention, guys, was being really aware of your surroundings and knowing what's going on at all times. In addition to this, if you are going to have a drink at dinner or a drink or two, let it just be a drink or two. Don't get drunk. If you are alone, do not allow yourself to get drunk. Do not have more than one or two glasses. Know whatever your own limit is, because the second that you're drunk or you're slightly impaired, guys, so many things can happen, and you're just really making yourself such an easy victim and target, and you never want to put yourself in that situation. You never deserve anything. You never deserve to be a victim, but we have to be intentional, especially when being alone, about making sure that we are not doing that to ourselves. So be aware of your surroundings. What does that mean? When you walk into a bar and you're going to go sit down at the bar and have a dinner and a glass of wine or whatever you would like, a Diet Coke, you know, do a quick scan. I was a lifeguard for a long time. And I used to work at a really busy like country club, right? And so I can scan really well, really easy, really fast. And I also pick up on vibes pretty quickly. So anytime, especially if I'm alone, the second I'm walking in, whether it's a church, it's a grocery store, it's whatever, it's just a very calm and a very effective, okay, what do we have going on here? And it's just a quick scan. I recognize what's going on. I see who is around me, and I do my best to just be aware, right? So the next step of that is follow your gut and follow your intuition. There was one night that I went out and, you know, heard some music, and it was a great night, and it was this one spot. So a night or two later, I don't remember if it was the next night or not, I had dinner and then I was nearby that spot and I was like, oh, I'll just go back to that spot. It was a great spot and they have live music tonight. And apparently it's like the number one person on the island that everyone's been talking about. So I go to that spot and it's kind of near the end of the concert, I guess. And, I go in there, it's like great vibes, I'm dancing. And then like, this guy comes and immediately gets like in my personal space and like, touches my arm, like down from the shoulder down to the elbow. And I look at him and he's clearly very drunk. And so I didn't get upset. I just said, excuse me, can I help you? And he said something and I said, no, thank you. And kind of just turned away. And then he happened to do it like 2 more times. And then finally I looked at him and said, leave me alone. And I was not nice. And I said, leave me alone. Do not touch me. And I just left it at that. And so he just kind of like looked at me and like shook his head, whatever, and then walked away. And I was like, perfect. He's gone. A few minutes later, there was another situation. And then I kind of look around and like the whole vibe was off. It was one of those nights where I feel like there was just something in the air. And because I wasn't drunk and because I was aware of my surroundings and because I was following my intuition, I just left. I was like, look, I'm not going to wait for this to get worse and I'm not going to wait for something else to happen. I've already kind of had some looks and some encounters and some things that are making me not feel good. Like I just don't feel good about this. So I'm going to leave. So I left. I got in the Uber. Sorry, they don't have Uber there. So I got in the taxi. And in the taxi, very quickly within the taxi ride, I started to feel very uncomfortable by the things that the taxi driver was saying and the questions that he was asking me. I felt very uncomfortable. And before I went out that night, I didn't have the box cutter in my purse. It was, I had already walked out of my hotel and I was leaving and I paused. So like I stopped. I was like, it's not in my purse. And I'm like, I'm literally just going to dinner and back. I probably don't need it, And I was like, I'm going to go get it anyways. So it was annoying, but I turned around, walked right back up the hill because there's a hill up the stairs, got the box cutter and came back down. Fast forward to that taxi ride home where this Uber or this taxi driver is making me feel very uncomfortable. And then all of a sudden he starts saying like very forward, direct sexual things at me and sorts of things. And he goes, you seem upset. And I go, that is not acceptable. That is not okay. And he was like, oh, okay. And I'd already gotten the box cutter out and it was sitting, next to my leg. And I was just ready for whatever needed to happen. Right. But I was so uncomfortable during that moment, guys. Like so uncomfortable. It kind of like made my heart skip a beat thinking about the fact that I almost didn't bring the box cutter, because let's play that through. Let's say that, he ended up stopping and we, got to the hotel very shortly after and I got out of there very quickly. And he ended up just making a few more comments that were inappropriate and he didn't take action. But like, imagine had somebody actually taken action, I would have been okay. But earlier on in the day, had I not listened to myself, had I not gone back and gotten the one form of protection that I had with me when I'm traveling on an island alone, I could have been in a very difficult situation. Yes, I do my best to prepare myself for those situations. Yes, I train a lot of things that I feel could help me more than just like the average person. I'm not saying I'm never helpless. Like honestly, I'm probably the worst person for someone to try and do that too. But what I'm saying is it just gave me that extra level of knowing that I could protect myself and that I would be okay. And so I really just wanted to talk about this because, things happen all the time. And if you guys listen to a recent podcast episode that I had with India Paulino, she's amazing. And she is just a huge believer of women empowering themselves and being equipped and ready to and able to handle any situation for themselves and also for their family and for their children. She shares a personal experience of something that happened with her and her son, where she knows that someone was coming after her son in that moment. Thankfully, she was caring and she got out of that situation. But I really just want to mention it because it's something that we have to just have on our awareness at all times. And especially if you live in a big city, like it's just something that you always need to really just be aware of and careful of, guys. Things happen more often than not and more than what we're hearing about. And for me, I never feel paranoid. I never feel anxious. I just always feel aware, prepared, and ready. And it actually gives me confidence and it actually makes me feel really empowered. So I really encourage you, if you were someone who is not taking your personal safety as a priority right now, I encourage you, take any step, whether that is, getting concealed carry, or it's learning how to protect and defend yourself. It's signing up for jujitsu or something, guys, just literally anything. One of the biggest things that really helps too is the mindset, right? So some jujitsu academies offer female specific self-defense course like jujitsu, and I think that's incredible. And they talk a lot about situational awareness and mindset and just how to think through situations. One thing that I really love about jujitsu that's taught me is learning to be really strategic under pressure. So even though when I'm, just rolling and such, I'm being strategic in the sense of, okay, they're doing this. What do I have here? What moves can I do right now? Or how can I escape from this? If they have an arm and a leg, what can I do with this arm, right? And I'm just kind of thinking through this. It's really taught me how to really be really calm under pressure and to think and to have strategy. So the second I got into that taxi ride, and I really started feeling uncomfortable and I saw kind of where things were going, I already played through that scenario a million times in my head. I was prepared, I was ready, and I was not going to hesitate to do what I needed to do to make sure that I survived and I was safe. And I got out of that in a safe manner. And so I think it's just really important, and it's something that we should all make a priority, especially just in this climate that we have going on. So I believe that is kind of the main points that I wanted to share with you guys from my solo travel. Now, I also kind of wanted to touch on summer shredding. So summer shredding, if you guys don't know, is a bodybuilding show that Christian Guzman puts on. He originally started the summer shredding series on his YouTube channel. Eventually that led into a bodybuilding show where they actually have a bunch of different divisions, but they also have the transformation division. The transformation division are people that have gone through just incredible life transformations, 100-pound plus of weight loss. Some of them have had to go through weight loss surgery, and then they have had to create the lifestyle to create a whole new life for themselves. And it's really just given them like a second opportunity at life. And so while the competitors are like obviously the extreme side of things, and they are so inspiring and they looked so good, and I'm so proud of all of them that competed. The transformation is a different division where they get to share a little bit more of their stories. And I just wanted to speak on it for a second because I actually feel that it's a large part of what helped inspire me when I did get back from my solo vacation to start vlogging again. If you guys don't know, I did start vlogging again. The first video is already live. That's the only reason I'm talking about it. I really learned recently that I'm just not going to talk about anything that is not in my direct control. I am filming and editing my own content as of right now. It's in my control, so I will tell you guys as soon as it's up and live, because I got really disheartened and really disappointed with sharing with you guys that I'm vlogging again, a series is coming, and then content wasn't able to be produced, or I'm waiting on content from 2 months ago, and it's been quite the mess there. So I want to talk about the transformation division. So at finals, the top, I think like 17 or so, get to share their stories of their transformation, of their health and fitness journey in a video, and a lot of them do a video with a voiceover. And man, I was watching these videos and it was so hard not to get emotional watching these videos because their stories are just so incredible and so inspiring. And the cool thing is I was watching these videos and there was one story that like immediately just kind of grabbed my attention and really stood out to me. And so I started filming on my phone for Instagram. And I posted the story to Instagram, and then the person comes out on stage. So the video is like them working out, it's them eating healthy, them doing check-ins kind of thing. And then they walk out on stage in their tan, their makeup, their hair's done, and they walk out on stage. And this is actually a girl that earlier that day had come up to meet me and introduced herself to me. And I had no idea that it was her until she walked out on stage. And I thought, how cool was it that I was just genuinely inspired by her story? And it happened to be the one transformation girl that came up to me and said that she was inspired by me and my story and my content, my podcast. I thought that was really beautiful and just like not an accident. Like, what are the chances of that, right? But I mention this because, I watch all of these videos. I'm so inspired by these people and how fitness has just radically changed their lives, right? And then I'm with the other Alpha Elite athletes at Alpha Land and doing content and seeing all these people that like want to be sponsored by Alpha Elite. They're at the gym doing content. And, I did a Q&A where people were asking questions for, me, Ryan, and Rob. And they were just asking different questions about being sponsored and content and starting your business and their drive and their passion and their fire to just try to make it, to just try to get honestly to where we're at. It reminded me of how I started. It reminded me of that fire inside that I had when I was just trying to make it, man. And if I'm being totally vulnerable and totally honest, it pains me to say this because I really try my best. I really try my best to stay in gratitude and stay grateful, right? But I think that I actually unknowingly, subconsciously took for granted what I have right in front of me. I live in Houston and I have access to Alpha Land. I have access to, in Alpha Land, you can literally film and create content. That's what it was created for. And, I have hired different people to work with and that's cool. But I've almost been at this, I've had this like mental block. I've had this mental block where the content we're creating, at least especially for YouTube, hasn't been at all what I've wanted to create. But I think the block is like, I kind of felt like I was at this level where I needed to work with a professional videographer and have it be this like beautiful visual experience, right? And I can see in my head the like Netflix documentary, and I've been wanting to create that for years and years. And it's almost like I don't know, I just had this big mental block where I felt like I shouldn't, do it myself because I'm at this level where I can hire and pay for someone to do it, for me, because that's what they're great at. And I'm not great at video editing and such. But then also just like, it's like I have access to all of this. I'm able to bring my tripod. If I were to put in that same amount of effort that I put in when I started by doing it on my own, taking the time to set up the tripod, taking the time to get the angle. Yeah, it's a lot of work. It's a lot of commitment and it requires you, having more time dedicated towards your lift and your content. But guys, I actually love doing it, and I think I kind of got away from my roots. I got away from how I started. And I remember, guys, back in the day, so this is called the Evolve with Emily show, right? It's the Evolve with Emily podcast. Before it was that, I started making a series on YouTube called Evolve. And in that, I would document my life. I would share a voiceover of my training or a voiceover on a topic that I felt really passionate about. And I would incorporate that all together with my food and my puppies. And, I got to like have such a creative hand in creating a piece that I felt really proud of. Even though those videos weren't this like magical experience or this beautifully edited or really badass edited video, it was me, and I think that's the piece that I've really been missing from, YouTube, that I've really wanted is creating something that really feels like me, like the Emily that started with all of this. And so being at Summer Shredding, experiencing those transformation videos and, just really being inspired by the videos that they created, experiencing the hungry people that are here and just so hungry and so fired up to get to where I'm at, and just being reminded of how I started in general. Guys, it brought my fire back. It brought my fire back and it brought my appreciation back. It brought my gratitude back. It never fully left, but I have a new, fresh perspective now. And I'm just so thankful for that. And with that, I am filming and editing all my own content on YouTube and I'm having so much fun. I literally filmed, edited, and posted within a day and a half, guys. Like nobody has turned around like yourself. It's just true. And not just that, no edits needed, right? And here's the thing, like no one's going to do it the way that you do it. And there's always a process of training and working with people can be really beautiful in a lot of ways. I'm not dogging on that. I will absolutely still work with people. I'll still work with people in addition to me doing it on my own for special projects. But I think I just missed the Emily Hayden vlogs. You guys, if you guys are like real OG audience, followers, subscribers, you know what I'm talking about, like the Emily Hayden vlogs, because each person you work with, they're going to have their own spin on it, their own thing on it, and that's cool. But I think the reason why I have not put out any of the videos that I've created this year, which has been quite a few, is because none of them felt like me, because I was giving all of the creative direction over to someone else. And even though I tried to communicate clearly, I never felt like they could really just get it the way that it needed to be done. And here's the thing. I think that everything happens for a reason. And I think that those things happen for a reason to lead me to going back to doing it on my own for whatever reason. I'm not really quite sure yet, but I'm just happy. I'm happy. I'm excited. My soul got refreshed on that vacation. My fire got relit on the last, weekend event that I had, and I think the last piece that I'll share with this episode before we wrap it up here is every month, at the beginning of every month, I have an intention for the month. And at the beginning of June, it's my birthday month. It's also the month for the two biggest events for two of my biggest sponsors. First Form has their Summer Smash, and then Alpha Elite has Summer Shredding. And they're always like 1 or 2 weeks between each other. So I had Summer Smash, my vacation, and then Summer Shredding. And so at the beginning of the month, I set the intention to take a step back so that I could, in the future, take 3 steps forward. And so that step back meant less frequent posting on social media outlets and kind of just keeping things up as I take a moment to breathe, as I literally go on vacation. And then as I focus on these big events and just kind of like taking a step back from this like grind, work, hustle, kill, whatever, right? Now it's the end of the month and I'm like, oh my gosh, that was the smartest thing I could have ever done for myself. And I'm sharing it because some of you guys that are listening, you may need to do that for yourself. And you may think like, oh, I'm just taking a step back. But guys, seriously, that step back is going to propel you forward in a way that you would have never expected. So now going into this new month of July, I get to look at the month ahead and I'm so excited because now it's execution time, guys. Now it is time for me to focus. I get to be back on the grind, back on my A game, doing what I love with a new passion, a new heart, a new fire. And now I get to do it with the people that I love too. One of my main goals this year and throughout the rest of the year especially is doing what I love, the content, the YouTube, the podcast with people that I love. I'm kind of tired of doing things as like this like lone wolf, this lone survivor, solo person, I love myself. I love my own time, but like I feel so blessed to do what I do, but the next level of fun for me is getting to do it with other people that are positive and have good spirits and are on a mission to truly help make an impact in this world, and that's the thing. I heard in this podcast recently, like, what is your mission? Like, what's the mission that you're on? What are your core values? And what are you here to do in this world, right? And I'm fully on this mission to help people evolve in their life. And the way that I do that, the platform that I do that in, is actually through my social media, my YouTube, my Instagram, my content. And it really does make a difference. Sometimes it can feel hard to connect to that if I don't feel super connected with my following, which is one reason I'm really excited to get back on YouTube, because people comment on YouTube videos there. And it's great to actually like really have that connection with them. But that's my mission. And I think for a while I just started, I don't know, guys, I was in a weird spot of feeling discouraged, disheartened, feeling like what I do didn't really matter too much, and I just have been reignited. The fire has been reignited. Emily Hayden is back. Emily Hayden vlogs are back too. And I hope that you guys are still here for the journey. If you're listening at this point, I'm sure you are. Alrighty, guys, I think that's going to wrap up today's solo episode. I fully enjoyed getting to catch up with you guys. If you enjoyed this episode, do me a favor and share it on your Instagram stories or text it to a friend. Let me know some feedback. What do you think about solo traveling? What do you think about women's, empowerment and being safety and cautious, or being safe and cautious when traveling? Are there any tips that you guys have that you feel like would be beneficial for others? If so, comment it down below, share it on your stories. Obviously there's so much more I could say, but I just kind of wanted to just share from the top of my head right now with nothing planned out. So that's going to wrap up today's episode. Thank you so much for listening, and I'll see you guys in the next episode of the Evolve with Emily show. Bye.